Welcome back to Gurung Pinoy. In today's MASH, or Module Assistance for Students Help Desk, we are going to have part 1 of week 2 of Math Grade 6. Let's take a look at the first slide. You have a very short explanation of the instructions there for our topic of multiplying fractions. So number 1, you need to multiply the numerators. Number 2, you need to multiply the denominators. Then of course, number 3, you need to simplify or write the product in its simplest form if possible. Okay, let's take a look at exercise number 1. Now, of course, you already know the different parts of your fraction. You have your numerator, which is the number above the fraction line. And of course, you have the denominator, which is the number below your fraction line. Now, again, in your instruction here, it says multiply the numerators, then multiply the denominators, then simplify your product. Okay, now looking at your numbers here, your numerators are 3 and 4. If you are going to multiply them, of course, that would give you 12. Okay, now you write your fraction line, and you proceed by multiplying your denominators. You have 8 multiplied by 5, and so that gives you 40. We are going to simplify the fraction that we have here. We simply divide both the numerators and the denominators by their GCF, or their greatest common factor. Now, for you to be able to do this, you need to have already memorized your multiplication table, and you know that the different factors are those numbers that we multiply to get a certain product. Say for 12, you get that product by multiplying 1 by 12. Okay, so 1 and 12 are factors of 12. You can also get 12 by multiplying 2 by 6. Okay, so 2 and 6 are also factors of 12. You also get 12 by multiplying 3 and 4. Okay, or 3 by 4. All right, so these are the different factors that you have for 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now for 40, you also have several factors for those. Say you have 1 multiplied by 40. Okay, you can also have 2 multiplied by 20. You can also have 4 multiplied by 10. Okay, what else? You can also have 5 multiplied by 8. Okay, so these are some of the factors that you have for the number 40. Now, looking at your factors here for 12 and also your factors for 40, you can actually see their GCF, and that would be the number 4. Okay, so GCF would be 4. So what you do here is you divide both your numerator and your denominator by your GCF. Okay, so you divide 12 by 4. You also divide 40 by 4. 12 divided by 4, of course, that's 3. Then you have 40 divided by 4, and that would give you 10. Now, looking at the numbers that you have here, 3 and 10, you know that they do not have any common factor except for the number 1. So that would be the simplest form of your fraction. Okay, so that will be your answer. Now, as you can see, what we did was that we multiplied the numerators, then we also multiplied the denominators, then we simplified the product that we have. But we actually can do another solution to this. Okay, now another solution is for us to simplify at the beginning of our process. By simplifying at the beginning of the process, you can look at the numerator and the denominator of your two fractions. So say you have 3 here as the numerator of one of your fractions. You have 5 as the denominator of your other fraction. Now, as you can see, they don't have any common factor except for the number 1. Now, you look at your denominator here for the first fraction, that's 8. And the numerator for the second fraction is 4. Now, we know that they have the GCF, and that would be 4. So what we do is we divide both the numbers by 4. So 8 divided by 4 would give us 2. And 4 divided by 4 would, of course, give us 1. Okay, so now we can proceed with our multiplication. So what we have is 3 multiplied by 1, since we have already divided 4 by the GCF between 4 and 8, which is 4. So 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. And for our denominator, we have 2 multiplied by 5, and that would give us 10. So as you can see, we actually have the same answer as the one that we had a while ago. We only simplified the fractions at the beginning of our process. Okay, so the same answer. All right, now we go to example number 3 here. For example number 3, you have a fraction and it is multiplied by a whole number. Now, as you can remember, whenever you have a whole number, the denominator would just be equal to 1. Okay, it's just going to be equal to 1. Now, doing the same process that we had there, that's the second solution that we had. 7 and 1, we look at your numerator 7 and the denominator 1. They don't have any common factor except for the number 1. And then you have 10 as your denominator here and 4 as the numerator of your other fraction. Now, we know that their GCF is 2, so we can divide both of them by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay? Now, we can proceed with our multiplication. 7 multiplied by 2, that's 14. Then we have 5 multiplied by 1, that would give us 5. Okay, now as you can see here, our answer is an improper fraction. When you say improper fraction, your numerator is bigger than your denominator. So we need to simplify this and use a mixed number. A mixed number, of course, has a whole number and a fraction. Okay, now how do we do that? We simply divide our numerator by the denominator here. Okay, so dividing 14 by 5, we know that that would be 2. And 2 times 5 is just 10. So there is a remainder of 4. Okay, so that's 2. The remainder 4 becomes the numerator of your fraction. And you just copy your denominator there. Okay, so your final answer would be 2 and 4/5. Okay, now we go to question number 5 here. Question number 5 actually has 3 fractions. And you can still do your simplification at the beginning of the process. But this time, you cannot do it all at once. What you do is you ignore the last fraction first, and you start with the first 2 fractions that you have. Looking at 2 and 5, we know that they don't have any common factor except the number 1. And then you have 3 and 3, so we can both divide them by the number 3. Okay, so 3 divided by 3 is 1, then 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now we proceed with multiplying them. Okay, so we multiply the first 2 fractions first. That would be 2 multiplied by 1, and that would give us 2. I'm going to write it here so we can proceed with the multiplication later. And you have 1 multiplied by 5, and that would give you 5. Okay, so now you have 2/5 multiplied by 7/9, which is your last fraction. Looking at 7 and 5, there is no common factor except number 1, and 9 and 2, no common factor. So we proceed with our multiplication. 7 times 2 is 14. Okay, then 9 times 5 is 45. Now looking at our numbers, we know that they do not have any common factor, and so that's the final answer. Okay, so again, you can simplify at the beginning of the process here, but if you have 3 fractions, you cannot simplify them all at once. You need to ignore the last fraction first because if you simplify all of them and you write, say you divided 3 by 3 here, and that's 1. You also divide this 3 here by 3, and that's 1. 9 here by 3, and that would be 3. Your answer is actually going to be wrong. Okay, now we go to the next slide. For the next slide here, the process would just be the same. Finding the product, simplify your answer if possible. Okay, so we do the second solution that we have. Looking at your numerator and your denominator here, 5 and 7, no common factor except the number 1. 9 and 3, there is a common factor, which is 3. And so we divide 9 by 3, that would give you 3. 3 divided by 3, that would give you 1. Okay, now we proceed with our multiplication. 5 times 1 is 5. And 3 multiplied by 7, that's 21. Okay, no common factor except 1. So we say that that is the final answer. Just the same process as the one that we did in the first slide. All right, we go to exercise 3. Exercise 3 is just going to have the same process. The only difference is that we are given word problems here. So for example, you have number 1, what is the product of 7/15 and 5/7? Okay, so the same process, that would be 7/15 multiplied by 5/7. Okay, looking at your numerator and denominator here, we know that we can divide them both by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Okay, now you have 15 and 5. We can divide both of them by 5. We have 15 divided by 5 giving us 3, and 5 divided by 5 giving us 1. Now we proceed with our multiplication. 1 multiplied by 1, of course, that's just going to give us 1. 3 multiplied by 1, that will give us 3. Okay, so that would be the final answer. Now remember to always simplify your answers. You simplify the answers by looking at your numerator and denominator. If they have a common factor, divide both of them by their GCF, okay, and that would be your final answer. If it is an improper fraction or a fraction where the numerator is higher or bigger than your denominator, then you need to divide the numerator by the denominator, and you are going to write your final answer as a mixed number. Mixed number, that means there's a whole number and a fraction. Okay, we proceed to the next slide. All right, now here, it is just going to be the same process. In math, when you see the term of, that means multiply. Okay, so this is just multiplication. So 3/4 multiplied by 32, we know that whenever you have a whole number, the denominator will just be 1. Okay, now looking at your numbers, 3 and 1, no other common factor except 1. 4 and 32, their GCF, of course, would be 4. So we divide 4 by 4, that would give us 1. 32 divided by 4, that gives us 8. Okay, now we proceed with our multiplication. 3 times 8, that would be 24. Then you have 1 multiplied by 1, which is, of course, just 1. Now, again, any fraction whose denominator is equal to 1, your answer would just be 24, which is a whole number. Okay, so that's your final answer. All right, so just the same process. Now, remember here, you cannot simplify all of them at once. You need to ignore the last fraction first, okay, before you proceed with your multiplication. Okay, so looking at this, we know that 1 and 5 have no common factors. 3 and 2 have no common factors. Now, let's check if we have common factors here between 2/5 and 9/10. Okay, 2/5 and 9/10, since we did not simplify any part of our first fraction there, we proceed by simplifying using the last two fractions that we have. Okay, so you have 2 and 10. You know that they have a common factor, which is 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 10 divided by 2, that's 5. Okay, then you have 9 and 5, no other common factor except 1. Okay, we proceed with our multiplication. 1 times 1, that's just 1, multiplied by 9, so that's 9. Okay, 3 times 5, that's 15, multiplied by 5, and that is going to give us 75. Okay, now looking at this, we know that they do not have any common factor because the factors of 9, of course, are 1 multiplied by 9, there's 3 multiplied by 3, and 75 is not divisible by 3. Okay, so we say that that is the final answer. Now, if you did not do that, if you did not do the second process that we have, and instead you proceeded with your multiplication, simplify the product at the end of your multiplication, let's try to check if they have the same answer. So 1 times 2, that's 2 times 9, it's 18. Okay, then you have 3 times 5, that's 15. Multiplied by 10, of course, that would give you 150. Okay, now looking at this, we know that their common factor would be 2. Okay, so we divide 18 by 2, and we also divide 150 by 2. The answer would just be 9 over 75. So as you can see, our answer is the same as the one that we had a while ago. Okay, so that's for exercise 4. We go to the next slide. Now, in this slide here, you see the generalization. It says to multiply mixed numbers, first convert the mixed numbers to improper fractions, fractions where our numerator is bigger than our denominator. Then, of course, you multiply. Convert the answer to a mixed number and write it in simplest form whenever necessary. Okay, so you have your mixed number here. Since you have a whole number and a fraction, okay, now we are going to convert this to an improper fraction. How do we do that? You have 1 and 1/2. Let me write it here. We are going to convert that into an improper fraction. By converting it into your improper fraction, you simply first multiply the whole number and the denominator. Okay, so that's 1 multiplied by 2, and that would give us 2. Then your product, you add it to your numerator here. Okay, so that's 2. You add it to your numerator, and 1 plus 2 we know is 3. Okay, then you simply copy the denominator. Okay, so that would be 3/2. Okay, now again, we multiply the whole number by the denominator, and the product is added to your numerator. Okay, so 1 plus 2 equals 3. Then we simply copy the denominator of our fraction. All right, so that means here we are going to multiply 3/2 by 4. Okay, let me just write 4 here. So again, we know that 4 is a whole number, and we understand that whenever we have a whole number, the denominator would just be 1. Okay, now looking at your numerator and denominator here, no other common factor but 1. Then you check 2 and 4. We know that their common factor is 2, so we divide both of them by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, we proceed to our multiplication. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. Okay, so final answer would just be a whole number, which is 6. Okay, so 6 should be the answer for number 1 here. Okay, let's have another example. Say you have this one here. Okay, since we have 3 factors there. 10 over 11, or 10/11 multiplied by 6, multiplied by 1 and 1/4. Again, you start by converting your mixed numbers into improper fractions. Right? So again, we convert our mixed number of 1 and 1/4 here into our improper fraction. So we write 1 and 1/4. Okay, again, we start by multiplying the whole number by the denominator. So 1 times 4, that would give you 4, and you add that 4 to your numerator. Okay, so you have 1 plus 4, that would be 5. Copy the denominator of 4. Okay, so that would be equal to 5/4. Okay, so that means this should be 5/4 here. Okay, let me erase this. Multiply 10 over 11, or 10/11 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 5/4. Now we know that 6 here, the denominator would just be 1. Okay, now looking at your numbers here, we know that 6 and 4 are going to have, they both have a common factor, which is 2. So we divide 6 by 2, that would give you 3. You divide 4 by 2, that would be 2. Okay, now you proceed to your multiplication. 10 times 3 is 30, times 5, and that would be 150. Then you have 11 multiplied by 1, that's 11, multiplied by 2, that would be 22. Now looking at them, we know that whenever you have a number that ends with 0 or with an even number, then that is divisible by 2. Okay, so we try dividing them by 2, both of them by 2. Okay, 150 divided by 2 would just be 75. And 22 divided by 2, of course, would just be 11. They don't have any other common factor, but as you can see, this is an improper fraction, and so we need to convert this into your mixed number. So again, how do you convert that into your mixed number? You simply divide your numerator by your denominator. So we have 75 divided by 11, that would be 6. 6 times 11 is 66, so that means there is a remainder of 9 over 11. Okay, just copy the denominator there. Okay, so that would be the final answer. All right, now for exercise 2 here, it says find each product in simplest form, if possible, by multiplying each fraction, mixed number, whole number, in the second row of circles by the mixed number in the center. Okay, so I assume that you are going to multiply this by this, and write your answer here. Multiply this by this, write your answer here. Multiply this by this, and write your answer over here. This by this, okay, then write your answer here. Okay, now it's very important for us to convert your mixed number at the center into an improper fraction, because we are going to use that to multiply the rest of the things that we have in our organizer here. So we convert 1 and 1/2 into our improper fraction first. So again, you multiply the denominator by the whole number. That's 1 multiplied by 2, giving us 2. Then you add that 2 to your numerator. Okay, so 1 plus 2, that is going to be 3. That's equal to 3. Then you simply copy the denominator. So that means your improper fraction at the center is 3/2. Okay, now you have 2 and 1/3 here, and you are going to also convert that into an improper fraction. 2 multiplied by 3 is 6 plus 1. Okay, so 6 plus 1, that would give you 7. Then copy the denominator of 3. Okay, so that would give us 7/3 multiplied by 3/2. Now, as you can see, 7 and 2 here, they don't have any common factor except 1. 3 and 3, they have a common factor of 3, so you can divide both of them by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, then 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay, now we proceed with our multiplication. 7 multiplied by 1, that would be 7. And 1 multiplied by 2, that would give us 2. Okay, so that's your answer, 7/2. Now, as you can see, it is an improper fraction, and so we need to convert it into our mixed number. Again, how do you convert that into a mixed number? You simply divide your numerator by your denominator. So 7 divided by 2, that would give you 3. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. Okay, you have a numerator of 7 here, and 7 minus 6, of course, you know that you have a remainder of 1. And of course, just copy the denominator here. Okay, so final answer will be 3 and 1/2. All right, so that's just going to be the process for the rest of them. Okay, now we go to exercise 3. Still the same process, okay? It's still going to be the same process. Whenever you see a mixed number, convert this into your improper fraction, then proceed to your multiplication. If there is a need to simplify it using the GCF, then simplify that by dividing your numerator and the denominator by their GCF. If your answer is an improper fraction, your numerator is higher than your denominator, then convert that into a mixed number by dividing the numerator by your denominator. Okay, now looking at this, we need to convert 1 and 7/10 first into your improper fraction. So again, you multiply the whole number by the denominator of 10. So 1 times 10, that's 10. Then you add that to your numerator. Okay, so 7 plus 10, that is 17. Copy the denominator of 10. So that's 17/10. So this would be 17/10 here. I'll cross this out. Now check whether you have common factors across your two fractions. Okay, looking at your 20 here, numerator, and the denominator of 10 in your second fraction, you know that their common factor, their GCF, would be 10. So we divide 20 by 10, that would give us 2. We divide 10 by 10, that would give us 1. Now 21 and 17, they don't have any common factor except the number 1. We proceed to our multiplication now. 2 times 17, that would give us 34. And 21 multiplied by 1, that would of course give us 21. We have no GCF except for the number 1, but as you can see, this is an improper fraction, and so we need to write this as a mixed number. And again, we do that by dividing your numerator by your denominator. So we divide 34 by 21, that would just be 1. And of course, there is a remainder of 13. Okay, then copy the numerator of 21. Okay, so that's 1 and 13/21. Now say you have an improper fraction here and you have converted it into your mixed number. And say your mixed number would give you 1 and say 2/6. Okay, if this is your answer, once you have converted your improper fraction into a mixed number, 1 and 2/6. Now, as you can see, your 2 here and the 6, they still have a GCF of 2. Okay, so what you do is you simplify them still. Okay, so 2 divided by 2, that will give you 1. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. And so when that happens, your final answer will be 1 and 1/3. All right. Okay, we go to the next slide. This is the last slide. Solve, simplify your answer if possible. It's the same process. All right, so again, still, whenever you have a mixed number, convert this into your improper fraction. Once you have both fractions, then check whether your numerator and denominator across your two fractions, they have GCF. Divide them by their GCF, then proceed to your multiplication. Okay, so we convert 3 and 3/4 first into your improper fraction. Okay, so 3 and 3/4. We multiply 3 by 4, that would give us 12. And we add 12 to 3 here. Okay, so 3 plus 12, that's 15. And copy the denominator 4. Okay, so 15 over 4. Okay, so that means this is 15 over 4. Okay, I'll cross this out. Now check whether you have common factors. Your numerator here is 3. Denominator in your next fraction is 4. No common factors except 1. 5 and 15, their GCF would be 5. Okay, so 5 divided by 5, that's 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Then you proceed to your multiplication. 3 times 3, that's 9. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, now this is an improper fraction, so that means we need to convert this into a mixed number by dividing your numerator by your denominator. 9 divided by 4 is just 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, you have 9 here, so that means you have a remainder of 1. You have a remainder of 1 here, and you write that as your numerator, and of course, just copy the denominator here. All right, so that ends part 1 of week 2 of Math Grade 6. This has been Coach Mek of Gurong Pinoy. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all our social media accounts. And please be back for more of our videos. And I leave you the saying, malit man na butil ng mga kaalaman, ang dulo nito ay malaking kaginawaan.